How's it going, everyone? It's Jeff Chrysler here, a detail enthusiast, here with my next installment of the BN1 restoration. And this time we're talking about weather equipment to finish off the car. Lots to show you, so let's get into it. I've been plugging along, resolving little minor issues, getting the lighting all working. I now have all the lighting working and signals working properly. There are a couple faults I had to resolve. She's now running properly. All the lights and horns and everything works beautifully. So I'm just carrying on with weather equipment now. So as you can see, my top frame is in the upright position, and I've now fit my new wood header rail. It just screws onto the bottom with a row of screws, countersunk screws. And first thing I did when I got this new header rail in was gave it a couple coats of shellac, because this is gonna face heavy moisture over the years. I want it to last. These things, I've seen them just in scrap shreds, you know, they deteriorate really badly with moisture and wet getting in there. So I wanted to protect it as best I could. So now it's on there, it's well shellacked, and the next step is, so because this is an early BN1, the steps here are a little bit unique. And the tops that I've dissected and taken apart, original ones, I've found that they did the inside they started a piece of vinyl along this front edge here and wrapped it all the way around and then finished it off underneath. So, and it was the same matching dark blue vinyl as used in the rest of the interior. So I'll have a dark blue vinyl strip covering the top, inside, and bottom edge of this header rail assembly, including the steel. It all gets wrapped in one go. And then on the outside, there'll be a separate piece of Everflex that covers, like, starting here sort of thing, this top corner, and just wraps it in underneath there. So the front edge face is all covered in a piece of Everflex. And then the top itself will come over and it just gets cut off along here with a piece of Hydem to hide that joint. So vinyl on the inside, Everflex on the outside, and then the top over the outside as well. That was certainly an early BN1 feature. And then later cars, like later BN1 and BN2 and everything after that, they just used Everflex for the whole wrapping. They didn't bother trying to color match the interior anymore. They just used the same material as the top for the entire header rail. So that's one key little feature for the early BN1 tops. Okay, so just to show you how I've trimmed this header rail, you can see the Everflex, which is the same material as the top and tonneau are made out of. That starts here and wraps around the underside, and it finishes on the inside corner in there. And then the vinyl, same as the interior vinyl, starts right there. That's right where the bead of Hydem is going to go, and the topping material is going to finish sort of just under it as well. So everything kind of falls along that seam. And yeah, the vinyl wraps around the inside and again finishes off on that inner corner. And that's how it goes. And then once that's on, I can install my top brackets, just kind of temporarily to hold the frame in place while I fit the top. And then once I get to the point of pulling the top forward, I'll have to remove those and put it through the top. So that's ready to go. I can now establish my webbing straps. I can actually put the top seal in now too at any point. It's kind of a good thing to do early on, just it does affect how this sits on the top of the windscreen. So I think I'm probably gonna put in the top seal now and then do the webbing straps and then finally fit the top. So here's my top seal. You can see here's the profile. It's like a little L. So I'll be hand gluing that into the header rail there. So, and the L lip goes up against this front lip. So makes a decent seal along the top front edge of the windshield, hopefully. Okay, so just about to fit my freshly made top. There it is over on the bench there. Took me a full, complete 10-hour day to make that top. They're not easy. Yeah, as I showed you earlier, I made like a test vinyl top, just out of some cheap pattern vinyl to test my pattern and make sure it was going to work and make any adjustments I needed to make before I cut the actual Everflex. So I did that and it should fit beautifully. So I've now got the header rails all trimmed. I've now installed the gray cotton webbing, which same type of cotton webbing applies to all big Heelys. They all had it with their tops. And yeah, it just glues and wraps around itself. There's a screw hole right in the center underneath this, and early BN1 tops, once the top is on, there's actually a screw that goes right through the seam that falls on this and into the bow so that it is attached to that rear bow. So I'll locate that hole and make it, and then I can put the top on the car and go from there. So here is the finished top with the header rail and webbing installed. Actually, the way I first installed the webbing was wrong, so I had to go back and redo it. I'll show you what I had wrong. So early BN1s like this, the webbing actually just came over that top bow and it kind of folded back on itself to have a finished edge, and then it just glued on top of the bow, and then that screw that comes through the top that I mentioned, that is all that holds the webbing in place. So it's not actually wrapped around the bow there. So that's what that webbing does on the ends for early BN1, and then later on, later BN1s and BN2s, the webbing was actually sewn into that rear seam and wrapped around the bow here. There was like a little tail of it after it was sewn that wrapped around the bow there. So that is how the early BN1 should look anyway. So, and this is my new top. This is my first handmade Heeley 100 top. I was able to get a really good original that a client sent me, and I dissected it for the patterns and got all the practices recreated properly. So you've got these nice French seams here that come up here and stop at a point, and they fall right on those bows where they're supposed to be. And then this lower part here that wraps around, and it's got like a pocket inside for holding the top bar. It slots into those little hooks in the back. And then of course this is all my original knurled head 10-ax hardware, and the turn button snap with the curve on it. New ones are squared off. So really nice, really happy with this. These front tabs, as original, I've got a loop. There's like an aluminum plate in here that these front tabs are made of two pieces of material sandwiched together. They're just glued and then sewn. So it gives it extra thickness here. So this is like a flap that rides against the side screen, kind of closes against this flap, and you can adjust these front corners to be a nice fit around the side screen. So this piece of aluminum will bend in there, and you just set it to where you want it. So I've got those aluminum tabs in there, and that's my early BN1 top latch, which is all of its original hardware. There's several variations of this. These latches evolved over the years. I've still got to get these chromes. These are the correct screws, but I've got to get them chromed. So I can do that later. But and then of course, so when you put the top on, as I showed you, the header rail was previously trimmed. So that is the only bit of trimmed header rail that is exposed on the outside. It's just that lower part. Same material as the top is, obviously. And then the top just pulls on, and there's a row of staples or tacks under there. And then the hide-em is what hides those and finishes it off. And the sides just wrap around like this. And so there you go. I gotta wipe away my center line there still, but finished off with these tips. They're shaped like this originally. Some Some repros are just a smooth kind of thing. But they should have the ribs that kind of follow the contours of the Hydem there. And then a little tiny flat Phillips screw. Yeah, really happy with that. That is how a Healy 100 top should fit. The new ones available are usually too much material back here, and it's really hard to get the wrinkles out in the back of this area. So I'm really glad I got that corrected and really right, following an original exactly. So these will be made available through Right Way Heritage Trimming, as well as my tonneau covers and that. So yeah, but that is the finished top. English Everflex, as they were. And another thing to note is a lot of the replacement tops available have the vinyl side on the inside of these flaps, and it shouldn't be. It should be all matching gray in here, with the exception of that lower rear pocket. They did that. They showed the vinyl on that one, but that was it. And that header rail, the vinyl that you see there, is the same matching vinyl as the doors and seats. Oh, I forgot to mention these 3 tabs, and they have like a little rubber nub in them that presses against the windshield to help align this. So that about finishes the Healy interior and weather equipment for this car. So side screens fit beautifully, and I'll show you some pictures of that. And tonneau cover also fits beautifully. So, and here is the finished tonneau cover. Again, this is, I made this, they're available through Right Way Heritage Trimming. This is the early BN1 tonneau cover, unique in how it wraps around here. The shape is a little different than later BN1s and BN2s. Later cars were more squared off rather than it tapering around. They came out more square, and they had these style of turn button snaps up in the front corners, whereas early BN1s just relied on these 10X and followed the cockpit rails more evenly. So that is your early BN1 tonneau cover. Pretty straightforward for installing these as well. Of course, you got the little, there's little bars sewn into the back here that go into those same hooks in the back that the top uses. So you put those in first, and then I always start with that front center 10X snaps to get everything centered. And then I just, once that one's in, then I do these turn snaps, which they have their own little flap just in front of, behind the door there. Get those established, and then just pull out all the wrinkles in all 4 corners. And there you can see that's the correct, my reproduction of the original Lightning zippers. They always had a tan zipper backing, and then it has the Lightning zipper pull, which we get cast. And these are all my knurled head 10Xs as well. So yeah, fits beautifully there. And I recommend to any Healy owners who are putting the tonneau over top of the top here, these are the front top brackets that latch up here. They're quite sharp underneath there, and I always recommend having, you know, a piece of leather or bubble wrap or something to just lay on top of there so it's not gonna pierce through eventually. If you do that, it'll save your tonneau cover, make it last a lot longer. So I've just got a couple scraps of leather that I've sewn into a little sock that just covers over that, so it makes it really easy. Yeah, and next I'm gonna show you the side screens. So again, I made these following originals exactly. These are what we call the Style 2 side screens. So they've got the signal flap in the bottom, which you can open up, and as you can see there. And actually we found just recently that there's a couple variations of even this Style 2 side screen. So I'll tell you the evolution. From the beginning of production of the BN1 until about November of '53, The side screens, which we call Style 1, were they had a chrome L frame that just did the front and bottom edges, and then it was a Perspex screen. It was shaped with the curvature in it, and it was just clear Perspex, no upholstery involved. And then after about mid-November of '53, they switched to this side screen. The Perspex had a problem with fogging up, and I think it was really hard to prevent them from getting scratched up as well. So about November '53 on, they switched to this Style 2 side screen. And I've now realized that there's actually a slight variation on this Style 2. You'll notice in the bottom here, there's this flat metal bar that's sewn into the side screen, which provides that flap some weight so it's not flapping around in the wind. And there's a rivet going through that metal bar into that inner strap to hold that strap so that it's doing an up and over thing to protect your cockpit rail. Well, I've also seen a variation where instead of a flat metal bar in there, it's just a metal tube or rod, and there's no rivet. And instead of a rivet, they actually just caught that strap with this stitch line. So it was just sewn in place and no visible rivet. I'm not sure, I have a feeling they probably started with the metal bar style and then switched to the rod because it was a nicer, neater looking thing. But anyway, so that kind of adds Style 2 and 3. And then the final style, which until now we've always referred to as Style 3, which was later BN1s and BN2s. The Style 3 side screen no longer had this separate flap, and the chrome was a little bit different, the frame was a little bit different, and to get inside of it, the whole bottom half of the screen would lift up. There was no chrome along the bottom here, and actually this chrome stopped right here, so this whole bottom was just a flap that you could lift up. That was the Style 3, which maybe we'll start calling that Style 4, I'm not sure. It gets confusing. But anyway, these side screens, of course, they come in their own bag. I like to keep a piece of bubble wrap in between them just to prevent them from getting scratched. But the bag was color-coded to the car and just stores in the trunk like this, in the boot. And of course, the screens themselves, you've got these adjustable little pegs that slot into the tops of the doors. And unique design. There's that rivet coming through that holds this strap. The strap just has a 10x snap like that. Notice that when it's open, it lands right there. So it's not actually, there's no way it can scratch your screen. All kinds of little things like that built into the design. So those are your side screens. I make them available through Right Way Heritage Trimming. I provide the upholstery part. Of course, you've got to have your own frames and chromes and hardware. That stuff is pretty hard to come by, especially this unique hardware here. This hardware is quite unique and difficult to find. It was nickel plated originally, although it's made out of brass underneath, so they often look brass. Yeah, especially these Style 2 frames, the difference between Style 2 and Style 3 frames is just this bar. The Style 3 frames don't have it, but beyond that, they're about the same. And of course, the Style 3 is not gonna have all these holes for the chrome because there is no chrome on the bottom or here. So that is Healy 100 weather equipment for an early BN1. If you've seen my BN2 video, I show you the differences in that top and tonneau cover, just minor ones, and of course the interior has lots of differences. So it's interesting how these cars evolved as they were being produced, and I love these early BN1s. They're just, it's the original design, and yeah, just a lovely car. Very happy about that. So now that this car is finished, you know, it's getting mid to late January now here. The snow is on the ground. It is the winter season, but the next few months we'll out on the road and start putting the miles on. And come September, we're going to be taking her to Enclave 70, which is on the East Coast in Pennsylvania. So big trip. My wife and I are planning to ship the car one way just to save on time and then drive it back the other way. So we'll be driving her home from the East Coast. Should make for a great adventure. But lots of mileage to put on between now and then and make sure she's well sorted and a good reliable car, or as reliable as I can make her. So looking forward to that. And of course, we'll have her judged at Enclave as well for concours, see how we do. So lots to look forward to. So until next time, I'm Jeff Chrysler, a detail enthusiast, an Austin Healey enthusiast for sure. We'll see you again.